Where's the beef? Where's the beef? Well, are people with disabilities less important than seniors? Are seniors less important than people with disabilities? We're going to talk about the difference, or is it similarities, or the same? Stay tuned, as we're going to talk about the inequalities across the board. Thanks.
PWD Allies, the best disability podcast in Canada. Starring your hosts, Brent Frain. And as always, his producer and editor, Neil Matheson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to PWD Allies podcast. We're going to talk about where's the beef. Hello, everyone, and welcome to PWD Allies podcast. And, another great day on the south coast. The rain is now starting to kind of drift away, but it's stuck in the Fraser Valley right now, way out in the eastern Fraser Valley. The Pineapple Express or Atmospheric River, whatever you want to call it, is stuck out there. It's just stopped raining in Victoria, where I am in the capital region. Not too far from the BC legislature, and when I say not too far, I'm a bus ride away, or you can walk. It takes about 40 minutes to walk there. I guess there's lots of beef going on at the BC legislature. Yeah, beefy legislature.
Yeah.
When it comes down to policies, that keep people in legislated poverty in BC, is it seniors? Is it people with disabilities? Is it low-income individuals that are under a certain tax threshold? And that's what we're going to be diving in today, is the differences on the tax threshold and different adaptive equipment that people with disabilities, seniors need in their day-to-day lives. There's no difference. I mean, we're just people. As we age, our needs become greater, right? As you become senior, your needs become greater. It's not rocket science, but according to government, they love to do that divide.
They like to do the divide and conquer. And actually, before we get into it, though, Brent, I just wanted to quickly mention, because everything is related. Sometimes we do topics and people are saying why are you talking about this? Well, but it's because everything is related. It's like that. The joke of six degrees of Kevin Bacon, Oh
yeah.
It's kind of one of those things, and we have to say that the BC government here just got another credit downgrade.
Oh,
so now it's going to cost the government more money to borrow money. So now we're going to go deeper into debt, and now they're going to have even less money, because they already have told us. It was over 2 years ago. Over 2 years ago already, they were saying the government is broke. Our government is broke. They're already telling us that. So what happens when the government is broke, Brent?
That means we get less services.
There's less services. There's less money to go around. And who's always the first? If there's less money to go around, who is the first one that gets hit, Brent? Who is the first one to get hit?
Yeah, people with low income, seniors, people with disabilities, people on low income under a certain tax threshold. They're going to go after the most. They call the government, and I notice that media, they always say that the most vulnerable. Well, why don't we just say you're going after citizens, right? I mean, because it covers a whole broad range of people that were maybe middle class. Now their buying power has eroded away. So now I guess they're the most vulnerable too. They'll say, "Oh no! I work full time. I got 4 full-time jobs." But they're the most vulnerable now too, right?
But the important thing to remember, Brent, is it's not David Eby's fault.
It's never David Eby's fault.
It's never David Eby's fault. No. That's what the NDP always wants to tell us. It's never David Eby's fault.
Yeah, it's always the president, in the U.S. It's always
Yeah,
deflecting.
it's always Trump. It's Trump's
Yeah,
fault.
yeah, it's
It's
always
Trump's
his
fault for
fault.
everything.
But here's the actual reality truth, everybody. These problems were already
They're already in existence.
boiling. They're on the back burner on your stove, and as the as maybe the element wasn't really as heated as much, so they basically moved it to another element that was actually heating up more on the stove, and it became boiling, really boiling water because the problem actually escalated more and more well before the president actually became in office, even the first time and the second time.
Yeah.
These problems were blossoming a lot more. Why? Because I know lived experience. I've been watching this whole charade going on here. It's a whole domino effect. The house of cards, right? You remember that when you move one little card and they start falling down, and then you go to another door and you want to kick it down because you want to get away from these cards that are falling down, and you think you're going to be safe. Well, no, you're not going to be safe because you got to deal with the underlying problem. The underlying problem is eliminate poverty, right? So we talked a lot about these stories on our podcast and a lot of different series there was a couple people who have a lot of more lived experience than I have, in different stories that they would love to share. There's some actually on social media that share their lived experience stories that what they've gone through that are really heartbreaking, but it's reality. The reality is when you're going through hard times, how do you fix the problem? You look at the system. It's a systemic problem. Are you homeless? Are you on the street? Are you drug addicted on the street? Are you homeless? Do you not have the right kind of housing? And how do you fix the problem is you can't just put them into temporary supportive housing without giving them all the proper treatments that they need, because what could go wrong? You get them the treatments and you put them in permanent housing. I mean, for me, this temporary housing stuff is a band-aid on the problem.
And here's another spillover. Here's another spillover effect, Brent. And again, we are going to get into the whole seniors versus disabled in a second. But here's another spillover. Just the other day, I could find the article. I just read it the other day. But Kelowna, the Okanagan area here in BC, Kelowna is having a real hard time with crime. Like it's bad here in Vancouver, we all know, but apparently, there's so many stories. Like Kelowna is just a mess. Like I've read countless stories now from Kelowna. They're saying all these store owners and shopkeepers up there, they all, like every single one of the shop owners now, they all have the pull down gates and iron bars on the windows. They all have it.
Wow.
If one of them doesn't have it, they're guaranteed to have their windows knocked out.
Exactly.
The article that I came across the other day, there was a business, and these guys had been in business for like 33 years, never had a single problem. They were broken into twice in the space of less than 24 hours.
My God.
They were broken in the morning, and they were broken in again later in the day. And apparently they got robbed a lot. They got their store got wrecked, and they got ripped off by quite a bit of money, right?
Yeah, and here's the problem. The side effect of that is those costs get passed on to the consumer.
Yeah.
So the consumer ends up paying a higher price. The insurance companies, they will get to a point where they're not going to insure those companies anymore because they're going to now look at it as a huge liability, and their insurance costs go right up. And those insurance costs actually get passed down the line, everybody.
It all gets passed
insurance
down.
Costs, it gets passed on down to.
And I mean, again,
Tanya.
David Eby will say it's not his fault, but the fact of the matter is
he's deflecting the problem.
The fact of the matter is the world has become, under David Eby, the world has become a very desperate place. Mm-hmm. People are desperate. They're seeking a higher high. Like we have people that are drug addicted now. They're seeking a higher high from a harder drug, and how do you attain those harder drugs, Brent? It's crime. You have to steal money to get the money to pay for the drugs, right?
Yeah, to fuel
again, I know we're getting off topic, but the whole reason we're doing this is because it's all related. So
today.
At the end of the day, my whole point of this whole show is to say, the reason why PWD have nothing is because the government is putting their priorities on the wrong thing. They're not fixing the underlying causes. And it's just a trickle down, and the people with disabilities are the very last, are the bottom of the bottom, Brent.
My mom said this to me decades ago, Neil, exactly what you just said right now, because I remember, right, and I would talk about me riding my bike downtown Langley. I mean, I lived in the rural areas, and we didn't have very good transportation at all. I mean, transit took forever to get out in my area. And when it did, it was limited service, very sporadic. So if I wanted to go downtown, either I walked or I took my bike, or I took another conventional bus, like a city bus, one of those big giant charter buses that would come through. They used to call Pacific Coach Line at one time. Yeah, at one time, and then Greyhound actually started going through. They took over their route. And I thought, oh, wow, Greyhound. I haven't seen that in a long time, because it was maybe a year before. My mom and I would take the Greyhound up to the Okanagan, and she'd go and visit family and relatives and stuff. So it was kind of a treat seeing a Greyhound. Oh, why is Greyhound here? And then they had Booster. They had the Booster line, which was a subsidiary off of Greyhound. Anyway, I don't want to get off topic on that, but it reminded me of a senior. One of my neighbors was standing there waiting for the bus too. And so we got talking about how the cost of living and how much buying power you would get. And she would tell me stories. She goes, oh, Brent, she says, this would take a long day, tell you everything of what I used to be able to buy when I was young, when I was even younger than your age. Really? And so my mom would tell me stories too. And I guess the point of the matter is this kind of relates into our story today, PWD versus seniors. The buying power, what you could buy from way back when. I mean, way back in the early 1900s to the 30s, 40s, before the war started, right? And how systems got implemented in after the war, right, to help people. When they were put in, some of them were, not exactly the best, way to solve people's needs. I mean, but they were there and they were building on these systems.
Yeah. Well, things like the food banks, things like food banks, they were temporary measures, right? They were temporary measures. They were supposed to be.
Yeah. So my mom
somehow they blossomed into a must-have now.
Well, they brought them into corporations or non-profits, and some are for profit, some are not for profit.
And the presidents of these things, the CEO of these things, they have $1 million salaries.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them are really, some of the food banks are really good. I must say, there are some that are really good. There's some churches that offer hot meals. Some that they aren't anymore, unfortunately, and it's really unfortunate for people in the community who need those services. Again, they're having to go to those, but because government's not providing the basic standard of living, but they're taking care of themselves, no problem at all. I mean, you look at the recent reports on how much government's bloated so much that job creations in they say job creation is in the province, in the public sector, not in the private
Yeah,
sector.
the only thing in the economy that's working now for David Eby is the public sector, and
Oh yeah,
that is not stimulate. Like,
that
I'm
doesn't
sorry,
stimulate
David
the
Eby,
economy.
but the public sector does nothing to stimulate the economy. Does nothing to stimulate the economy.
Yeah, because if you don't have enough people in the private sector to keep businesses running, do you think that all people in the public sector are going to be going over to the private sector to actually keep them in business? No, because who's going to run the
Yeah,
private sector? Is the people in the public sector
yeah.
going to go in the private sector to keep things going? No. And
Well,
so yeah, it's
yeah,
like I've talked years about it too, and
yeah.
there,
Well,
and I'm not too happy.
we've had Tom on before, and Tom's always good. I mean, Tom talks about the fact that he's a janitor,
Hmm.
and I don't want to put him on the spot, but the
No.
reason I mentioned that is because there used to be a time and a place where people could have a job like a janitor, a blue collar job, where you got paid kind of well, but you didn't have to get paid exorbitant salary,
Hmm.
and so you could live and work and in the area that you are,
Hmm.
and you know so my point is that you could be a janitor that just makes an okay wage, and you could still afford to live, and you could still afford to pay rent, and so but now you have, say, like all of downtown Vancouver, the rents are crazy,
Oh, beyond.
and I mean, so who is the people that are being paid to scrub the toilets now? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, I don't think there's any janitors now that can afford to live downtown. So where are all the janitors coming from that are scrubbing all the toilets downtown? Because it's not any janitor that I know that can afford to live downtown now.
Now they're having to commute from further distances.
Yeah, like Abbotsford or something.
Actually, yeah, even further than that.
Yeah.
I know that some people who live in Esquimalt out in Victoria, a sub community out of Victoria. I mean, Victoria is such a huge area, right? You get different areas. It's out like Langley, for instance. You got Brookswood and Murrayville and Otter, Aldergrove. I mean, Willoughby. I mean, the whole area. I mean, Walnut Grove. I mean, you got a whole
Yeah.
area. Victoria, it's all spread. So anyway, here's the story, and this is kind of connected to what our today's podcast is about too. Is people having to commute further out. I mean, there's a young man, and he says, oh yes, his sister that commute all the way from Esquimalt, and I've talked to them because they actually have relatives who live close by where I live now. And the guy says, I have to commute out there. I actually stay out at my brother's place, and he actually does custodial work. He actually works for a company that does they do a sterilization of different equipment for hospitals and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's a subsidiary contract that they have. He actually works in a facility as a contract, but he has to stay out there because he can't afford the rents that are so high. But but he's grandfathered into where he lives now. Go figure. And he has to commute all the way out. So he'll go out and put 4 days in out of 5 days, 4 days on, and then he gets like 3 or 4 days off. It's kind of a rotating basis. He said, "There's no,
It's just ridiculous, Brent.
yeah." He said, "There's no life in that. Like, I'm spending more
Yeah,
time, not enjoying the community that I'm actually living in,
yeah.
and he'd rather just stay in the community that he actually grew up in." And I said, "Wow." He said, "Yeah, so I can't afford to be in the community that I live in," and that kind of blends exactly right into our podcast today, everybody.
Well,
I grew up,
let's start with the bus pass, Brent, because we're
okay,
talking about communication,
yeah,
communication. We're talking about transportation.
transportation, yeah,
So
and
let's start there.
okay, so our bus pass, everybody that's familiar in British Columbia, I mean, this goes back decades, everybody. The seniors in BC who have the privilege of having a bus pass, and it's called the $45 a year bus pass for seniors. who are low income. Like if you fall under a certain tax bracket, you're going to get that bus pass. Okay, so you just apply for it. You get an application from the BC government. They'll send it to you, no problem. You have to phone up their phone number. They have a toll-free number. You call up, and they have a bus pass line on there. So you just request that you'd like to apply for it. They'll send you out the application. You fill it out, and then you provide $45. You take it to your bank. Yeah, you take it to your financial institution, take it to a teller, and pay the $45. And guess what? You get to have a annual bus pass.
Yeah,
so
$45 maximum.
$45, yes, for
pay
a
one
year.
time. Pay one time, and it's active for the entire year.
For a whole year, and you do not, as a senior, you do not have to opt out of the bus pass to get $52. You just automatically get that bus pass. You don't.
And the important bit, Brent, is it used to be available to everybody on PWD here in BC.
Yeah, and income assistance. Income assistance
here, PWD income assistance. It used to be available. The $45 per year bus pass used to be available for people that were on disability here in BC, and it's not anymore. People with disabilities
have the same as what seniors had with that bus pass. Now the only difference is that people with disabilities have to. You don't have to. You could always have that bus pass and stay opted in as the equivalent of what I just described of what seniors get. Now people with disabilities have that same bus pass. The government and this is like throwing a hand grenade over toward the BC Liberals. Liberals will throw it toward the NDP, back and forth. Now, it was the other administration who decided to get rid of it because they felt that it was fair in the system. 6 people in a rural area decided that the system needed to be changed. Now, I don't understand why they wanted it changed because, it had always been in place for decades. If that was the case, then why, if they felt that it needed to be changed, why didn't they change it way back decades ago, right? And why all of a sudden? It doesn't wash with me because the fact is that the government then back then said, well, you can choose to have $52 or have that bus pass. You could stay opted in, just like seniors, and always get that annual bus pass. But you have that flexibility now of taking $52 of the value of that bus pass and have it per month on your check. But you don't get to have a bus pass. Now, if you take that $52, you got no transportation. If you change your mind and you want that bus pass back, you got to opt in by the 5th and no later than the 5th of that month.
It's just a lot of
You've got to wait till the following
nonsense
month to get that bus pass back.
Government claims that's an increase.
The government claims, what was that?
Government claims that's an increase to the rate.
The government claims that was an increase to the people with disabilities rate.
It was one person that claimed it, let's remember.
Yes.
And who was that person, Brent? Michelle Stilwell.
Michelle Stilwell said
that person that claimed this was a good thing.
That was a good thing to basically, to implement
she nuked the PWD bus pass for everybody in the entire province because she alone thought it was a really good thing.
Yeah,
she was the only one that thought to nuke a bus pass was a great idea. She was the only one, Brent. And there was like, it was like 5 or 6 of her friends. There was 5 or 6 of her friends that also thought it was maybe a good idea, right?
Yeah,
and that's why the whole thing got nuked.
Yeah, and also I need to mention that there was a special transportation subsidy also for people in the rural area who got
nuked as well.
Yeah, $692, and once a year, there would be a lump sum payment. So people who didn't have transportation, maybe a dial-a-ride, like a community shuttle bus, or like a handy, like a handy dart type of bus, or like a smaller, I call them little shuttle buses. But they're the same thing. You can call it shuttle bus or a handy dart, dial-a-ride in the rural areas. Or maybe you have a family friend that you pay them a lump sum amount per year, or maybe a taxi. And they didn't have Ubers back then, so that was kind of a newer mode of transportation for those rural areas. But you're living way out in the area of like somewhere where you're in farmland and there's no bus transportation. So yeah, you just go and maybe get insurance, and maybe you got cheap insurance somewhere. I don't know, it's not cheap anymore, but but I mean, anyway, I guess my point is that you had that flexibility of one lump sum payment. You could do a lot more with that. So the minister at the time decided, yeah, we're going to give everybody that choice of just having a bus pass or $52.
And again, the most annoying thing is that she is a person with a disability.
Mm-hmm.
So automatically she was a person that should have known better.
Mm-hmm.
She should have known better. And it was like, I don't care. I'm going to screw people over because that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun to screw people over. That'll be fun.
Well, people suffer, and I mean, especially like the ones in the rural, basic people with disabilities or seniors living in a rural area. I mean, seniors always had that bus pass, and of course, they couldn't use it anyway because they have no transportation in a rural area. So they would have that special transportation subsidy, right? Also, I mean, if they had what they were on disability and then they became a senior, well, now they wouldn't have that option. But again, $52 versus $6.92. So now what if a person was using that money in a rural area to basically say as a lump sum payment to give to a neighbor? What, they're supposed to give $52 now to their neighbor and say, here's 52 to go to our insurance. Well, maybe that person said, well, thanks, I'm going to put this to my insurance to help with my car insurance. I'll drive you anywhere you want. Well, but here's installment payments of $52 a month.
Yeah.
That really put people in a bad situation. I know I heard stories way back when that was done, and to me it made no sense. And when they changed the system, they said that the computer system was broken.
Yeah, they wrecked the computer system.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
Yeah, the NDP ran with it, and they said, well, the computer system was broken apparently, and
we'll never be able to build another one.
Yeah, we can't copy and paste the other system that the seniors have, that the people with disabilities did have. We can't just copy and paste it. Yeah, you can.
It always reminds me of that song. I'm going to sing a song from the 70s, Brent. You know that song? Someone left the cake out in the rain.
Oh,
and it took so long to bake it, and I don't think I can take it, 'cause I'll never have that recipe or computer again.
Oh,
no! Right?
Yes, that song
it's like, where's the computer? We'll never have a computer again, ever.
No, that song was from Jurassic Park. I remember the extinct dinosaurs, and that's what it reminded me of when you said, because it's such an extinct word, like a topic of how the government ran with it.
Where are we going to find another computer, Brent? Where are we going to find another computer?
I was furious time because I worked with computers since I was a kid, and when they said it was broken, I'm thinking, oh my God, who came up with that most stupidest idea? I was so mad. Sonia's like, what? Where are you going? I'm going over to Best Buy. I said, I'm going to go over and talk to them over in the computer shop. I said, I'm pissed. She goes, uh-oh. I went over, I marched in there, and I told them, I said, this is what the government said. And they looked at me, okay, you're kidding, right?
The government's saying they can't replace the computer.
They all started laughing. They said,
the computers are gone.
They thought this guy is hilarious. Oh my gosh. They said, can you tell us more jokes? Oh man. Oh, I said, I'm not kidding. They're like, okay, that was the most stupidest thing that was ever said. And the problem is the media ran with it because they thought that's because the government said, well, it's broken.
Yeah.
But here's the
always believe the government, Brent. Always believe the government.
Always blame the government. But here's
always
the
believe the government, Brent. Always believe
the government said that they actually raised the rates in 2018. No, they actually gave a choice of bus pass or the extra $52, but they classified it as a rate increase. No, so again, PWD need to have that bus pass back. Here's a solution. By default, you get to have the $52 on your check right now. By default, if you want that bus pass, you opt in. You have the equivalent of what seniors have, but what PWD did have. Yeah. So just give everybody the $52. Let everybody have that same bus pass, what seniors have. Easy peasy done. And again, it's a divide against divide. It's like
Yeah.
same as housing, right? It's the same as
Well, and just before you go there, Brent, I just wanted to say the quiet part out loud. You know, we always talk about the we always talk about the elephant in the room. Okay, so before we transition into the housing, we're going to say the quiet part out loud, and it's like, you know, why do you think that that seniors seem to have more value than PWD? That's saying the quiet part out loud, right? It appears that our seniors somehow get a little bit more respect than people with disabilities, right? And why is it? Let's say the quiet part out loud. I think the reason why it is, Brent, is because government says, well, you know, the seniors, they used to be a valued member of society. They used to be, you know,
they worked hard. They worked hard.
They worked hard.
They invested in our province.
They're a valued taxpayer. They worked hard. They're a valued taxpayer. And you know what?
Life.
People with disabilities, you know, most of them don't work hard. Most of them don't pay into the system. They don't pay tax. They don't work hard. They don't work hard. They don't pay tax. Right? That's the quiet part out loud, isn't it, Brent?
Yeah.
Right?
And yeah, exactly. And it's complete disrespectful of any government. You know, and I'm not just saying like the NDP or the Liberal Party or the Conservative Party or the Green Party or the Purple Party or the Auburn Party, the Black Party, you know, the Orange Party. I mean, it could be any party. It's like, just accept the fact that as we get older or as we're young, and then as we age, we become seniors. You know, people who are young, maybe they did babysitting, maybe they did help their family doing hair cutting. Maybe they learned how to cut hair. Maybe they mowed the lawn. They put the money into it. They put that money back into the economy, right? I mean, maybe they were a person with disabilities. They went to the grocery store with their parents, or maybe their parents said, "Hey, go to the grocery store for me, please, and pick me up some eggs." Or whatever, or pick me up some paper towel because I need, you know, some paper towel. Sure. So the young kid, you know, goes to the store, pays the tax, right? He's got a disability, pays the tax. As he gets older, gets more responsible with his money. Maybe he was taught to be really responsible when he was a child, or as a youth, or as an adult, to become more responsible with the dollar, the mighty dollar, to stretch it as far as you can. I know, growing up that way, I was taught really, it was really hammered away at me. You know, working in a grocery store, I got to learn about a lot of how basic stuff got put on the shelf. Where did it come from? Who was the distributor? And all this stuff. And again, the value of the dollar. I was taught that way back in that era of time.
You and I both have worked hard our whole lives, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a real myth.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that people with disabilities have never worked, and they don't work. And I will say too, I have to stick up for people. There are maybe a few that have never actually done much paid work. But let me tell you, Brent, there's lots of unpaid things that people with disabilities do.
Yeah.
There's lots of unpaid things that people with disabilities do that are extremely important.
Exactly.
Extremely important.
Totally. Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Neil, because regardless if a person puts money into society or they're not, are they supposed to be treated differently because they can't work, because they can't contribute into society? I was fortunate enough when I was younger. There was so many things that I was able to do, and I pushed myself so much. And as you get older, then you feel the repercussions by doing so.
Exactly, 100%. Brent.
Yeah, and also, and maybe your disabilities, they amplify in different ways, and there's no control over it. You just have to work with it the best way you can. But as society or as government, it's always an excuse by government though, because they'll blame it on different economic things. They'll say, well, you're not worthy enough because you're not a taxpayer. Oh, well,
you didn't work your whole life like the seniors did.
Yeah, the seniors, they worked hard for what we have now. They built our society for what they have. They grew up and they grew up in the.
When's the last time you went to war, Brent?
Yeah,
When's the last time you went to war, Neil?
Yeah, they'll say, well, they grew up in that community. They worked hard for what they have now. They have a home. Yeah, well, did they? Well, I grew up in the community too. Did I have a home? No, I didn't have the opportunity of having a home. No, I grew up with a single mother who kicked out my stepfather because he wasn't my real father, because he was an alcoholic. I guess my mom didn't really put enough into society government. Hey, well, and she was there then too.
For the show, Brent, I actually stumbled across a couple of stats for the show. The first stat I found was 43% of Canadian seniors have disabilities. 43%.
And that number is growing.
And it does go up because it says after age 75, over 50% have a disability. So
exactly.
It increases as you get older. Mm-hmm. As you always say, as you get older, the disabilities increase, and so that proves it right there. That you start as a senior, you start at 43% have a disability, and by the time you reach 75, you're already over 50% have a disability.
Well, yeah, exactly. And before you become having the status as a senior. Those disabilities were already pre-existing, right? They were already there, and so they just amplify as you get older. I mean, you get more prevalent disabilities, or they're hidden disabilities, or both. I mean, disabilities are disabilities. It's part of life, and any government from every level. I mean, and just society in general. You just have to accept people just for who they are. I mean, and not be so judgmental of saying, well. Yeah, but that person, if they really put their mind to it, they could go and do it. Well, you know what? They just be a cushion in place. And of course, I always get pushback about this. Well, why are you advocating so much for a social safety net? Well, shouldn't everybody have some kind of like social safety net in place? Like that's how the systems were designed.
You know what, Brent? All our politicians, when they retire, guess what? They get a social safety net.
Exactly, and those social safety nets were put in place after.
We're going to talk about pensions later, but let's transition and talk about housing now.
Yeah, RGI.
Let's talk about RGI housing now.
And I was kind of leaning to that because it's like, well, having housing was my own home. Well, I wasn't fortunate enough. My mom was trying to basically get her home that she rented since I was just a little child. She was working with the owner who owned it. And I mean, I called him, I just call him uncle because that's all I always thought, is, hey, he's uncle, he's coming by. Well, he wasn't my uncle, I mean, but he was part of family. Like he treated us family. He would take us out for lunch or breakfast, lunch or dinner. One day it was actually lunch and dinner. And then about a week later, it was like breakfast, and he would do breakfast and dinner. Like he would skip lunch. It was kind of funny. He was just his way. He was kind of a quirky sense of humor, but it was funny. Like he was always coming by, and he would drop off stuff for us, and all he asked is that something goes wrong with the house, you just go and get a contractor to fix it. And if you still can't find a contractor or it costs too much money, talk to me. I'll fix it, right? But his agreement was we'll leave the rent low for my mom, and it worked out really well. It worked out well. Well, my mom. She did the best she could. I mean, she worked hard. She paid regular market rent, and that was regular market rent. I mean, her rent was only $475, everybody. I mean, for a whole house.
For a whole house, that's pretty good.
A whole house. I mean, since I was a kid, the rent always stayed at that rate. I think, actually, no, hang on. It only went up. It didn't go up every year. Yeah, she only put it up twice since I was a little child. It started at $275, and then it went up to, and then it went, sorry, I'm mistaken. I apologize. 3 times. $275, then it went up.
That part out, Brent.
Went up by $100 up to $375, and then to $475. It stayed that way, that stayed that way for decades. Like, he never changed it, just because like the Tenancy Act would say, well, every year you can landlord can put the price up. Well, it stayed that way. My mom, noticed that over time. Like the buying power. She would talk about when she was younger, much younger, you could get more value of goods for your services. So she started finding it harder. She'd be working at a whole bunch of jobs, and she'd come home just bushed. I mean, beyond bushed. And just doing what she could do. And some of our neighbors would have us over for dinner because my mom would be working, so much. And you've just had community spirit. And so when it came into the housing, and my mom said, if you could just pay 30% of your income, Brent, that would help out. Okay, 30% of my income. Well, I mean, I was working at the time. I was working full-time and part-time. Full-time and part-time at 2 different jobs. And then I picked up another part-time job. So I had a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs. There was another company that I had applied at. They wanted to hire me. And I said to my mom, what do I do? She goes, Brent, don't take on so much that you can't chew, because the fact is that there's not enough hours in the day. I said, but I want to be able to help you out, Mom. I said, financially, I said, because your rent is, now her rent wasn't going up. The cost of living is going up. Yeah. So it was eating away at the amount of resources that she had to pay that rent. See, so even though her rent was so low compared to everywhere else, so I mean, I did what I could do. And so she said, well, 30% of your income. So I thought, okay, how does that work? So over time, my mom then applied for the senior supplement.
And that's the definition of RGI, we should say.
RGI.
RGI, rent geared to income. The very definition of RGI is 30%.
And what she had taught me about that 30%, and that was before she actually had applied for it, because my mom knew how that worked. I said, well, how does that work? And I wasn't on disability at the time. I hadn't even applied for it. I didn't even know anything about how any of that worked. My mom goes, I don't know, Brent. I don't know either. So we'll have to look into that. And then she goes, but she's going to be talking about her seniors supplement. She said, I think it's time that I apply for that, because her neighbor had encouraged her to apply for it, because times were starting to get a little bit tough for her. I mean, she was getting older. She couldn't work as much. So she had to start dropping off some of her work that she was she was doing. Physically, she couldn't do it anymore. My mom was very, extremely motivated. She would be bike riding, everybody. My mom bike rided until she was, she was 79 years old, 80 years old. She was, she could outpace one of our neighbors, and our neighbors was like really extremely fit. My mom was just go, go, go. It was her health condition that she had, and it deteriorated her down so much that we had to put her eventually into a senior's home. But before I get to that point, 30% of her income. So she applied for it. I wasn't on disability. I got onto disability eventually. The same worker that helped my mom out with the paperwork, I got to know who she was. And she had said, well, because you have the shelter designation on the status on the check, they break it down.
The PWD part, yeah.
Yeah, the PWD. So they got your support portion, they got your shelter portion on that same one check. Okay. And so the worker said, so unfortunately, Brent can't get that, even though you have that. It's just why not?
I taught RGI. Can't get the RGI.
You can't get the RGI. And my mom goes, why is that? I taught him about paying 30% of his income to rent. Right. But even though, because he has that designation, the only way that he would get that is that if he was actually under BC housing, he wouldn't lose his designation of the shelter. That portion actually stays in, but it doesn't mean anything. It only means that way when you are under market housing and that you're not under a program that you have to qualify for under that program. And so the worker explained in detail, so my mom and I understood. My mom goes, that is messed up. And that was decades ago, everybody. My mom even called it out to the worker, and the worker agreed with my mom and said that is how the system is designed. My mom goes, well, the system is broken.
The only thing that separates you from your mom at that point was just the age. So
it was the age and the system that the system how it was designed. And is that if the system was designed, anybody in market housing would automatically qualify for it, then like every person with disabilities right now, 74 to 75% of the BC population, people with disabilities right now, should automatically qualify. No questions asked. Like you should not have to try to become homeless or fleeing violence. I mean, we get into all those topics, but or at the verge of being homeless, like people should automatically get that kind of housing. If you're fleeing violence, though, yes, there needs to be some.
Why should you win a prize?
Yeah,
you know,
just for being a
it's a little bit perverse for me to say that, but why should you win a prize because you're fleeing violence?
Exactly.
Like you know what I mean? Like, well, because you're fleeing violence, we'll give you a home.
Yeah, or if you're
congratulations, you win.
Yeah,
you're the next contestant on The Price is Right.
Or your place is being sold, or condemned.
How stupid! I mean, I don't want to make light of violence. That's not my point. But I'm just saying that is how stupid the government policies are set up.
Yeah, because
you win the prize if you're the one fleeing violence. You win a prize. You know,
or here's another example, Neil.
How stupid!
I got off the phone with BC Housing, and I said, "Well, I pay high market rent. Okay, I want to get into BC Housing. Well, you can't just apply for BC Housing. You can't just get into BC Housing saying, well, sorry, the guy who's sorry for your bad luck that you're paying high market rent. You can't just say, oh, well, I want 30% of my income.
If you're only fleeing violence, Brent,
you have to meet all these.
You
said you got to meet all these pre qualifying conditions, meaning your place has been sold or condemned, as an example. You're fleeing violence, or you're on the verge of being homeless. Maybe your place is uninhabitable. But now you can go and apply, put your name on a waiting list, and then they take at least 4 to 6 weeks, and sometimes up to 8 weeks for them to get back to you. Doesn't mean that you are accepted. It's an acceptance letter, or by an email, or maybe a phone call, whichever mode of they can get a hold of you, just to let you know that they have now accepted your application. And then once they accept your application, now you have to wait for an intake worker to phone you or contact you, maybe meet in person, and assess your situation, and then determine what kind of housing that you're looking for. Looking at your application from what you applied at, you need to meet all those qualifications of the guidelines when you apply. And then they will say, well, what kind of housing is available in the area that is available? So you have 2 options, 2 chances to take that kind of housing. Is it an area that you want to be in? Is it accessible? Does it have all your medical appointments around you, your specialists, your doctors? If you find a doctor in BC, or a specialist, or maybe you have a specialist and you got to wait at least a year to go and see your specialist. Well, what if the housing's not available in the area? Maybe you got to travel 2-3 hours. Well, how are you going to get to those specialist appointments if you got to travel 2-3 hours when you opted out of a bus pass? You know, I mean, oh my God. Or the government doesn't give you enough money to basically go to those appointments. How about making it so that people can actually get to the services that they need within the community that they want to be in? And so that's my point going with that, is give every PWD RGI housing. They can choose where they want to be, in what community they want to be in their province. We
had Michael in chat. He also, from Investigative Reports Research Council, he said that
I find he's very informative.
That the RGI, he says, should cover utilities and heat too.
Yeah, it should. It should actually, and unfortunately, in many cases, it doesn't. And Michael, I agree with you on that, because one size of like a package. You know what I mean? Like, you get RGI, this is what you get. You get all those utilities included. those added costs, I mean, are huge, depending on where you live in BC. For the person with disabilities or seniors, I mean, you live further up north or up in the Okanagan or the Kootenays. I mean, wherever it may be, you can basically live way up to northeast BC. I mean, it's really cold. Fort St. John, yeah, you name it. Prince George. I mean, those areas get mighty cold in the winter. So yeah, your heating costs are going to be much higher. But the fact is that you don't always have the transportation that you need, and for accessible transportation. So having RGI is so important to keep those costs down, so that if you do need to go to other communities for appointment, I mean, knock on wood, that you can find all those necessities in your area, because it is important to have. And again, that's why I strongly say that being on a waiting list for subsidized housing through either BC Housing itself, for profit or not for profit, but they also got other companies that actually run basically for profit and not for profit that have nothing to do with BC Housing, but you still got to meet that RGI requirement that have nothing to do with BC Housing. Because there's another area that I found out from BC Housing that it was the gentleman was very informative.
The Safers program has nothing to do with
Yeah,
BC Housing, right?
Exactly,
That's a separate thing.
Yeah, that's what BC Housing told me, that there's other for-profit and not-for-profit.
And that's what when we're talking about Safers is a seniors supplement.
Yeah,
it's specifically for seniors to help cover the high cost of rents.
Yeah, and that's what
that has nothing to do with
BC Housing.
BC Housing at all.
Yeah, and that's what I found out.
Why can't people with disabilities get access to that?
Yeah, and that's one thing that I mentioned to the minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction in British Columbia, the MSDPR minister, the current minister, a couple of years ago now. We had the minister on our show, and I mentioned, why not extend that same program over? Because right now, I mean, in British Columbia, we have the RAP program, rental assistance program for single mothers, single fathers. I mean, they should be able to. Not everybody.
Well, I never did. Exactly.
Exactly.
I was a single father for 5 years. Never got
and Neil
anything.
was able to get it. But I mean,
I got a clawback, and that'll be our last thing. We'll finish off with
we'll talk clawbacks after. But I mean, those programs, as an example, like RAP, a rental assistance program. I mean, single mothers, single fathers. Neil should have got it when he needed it. We'll be talking on that one. And then there's the Safers. I can never get that pronunciation down. Doesn't matter how many times, but it's a seniors supplement, basically the same equivalent as RAP. Yeah. But you have to follow the guidelines. However, it's all based on household income. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to get into that part of the divide again. So having those programs in place, I mentioned to the minister how important it is to extend it over to people with disabilities who pay high market rent, but have it extended over to them while they can still live where they're living. They don't have to move. They can, if they're living, maybe they're living with a sister or a brother. Maybe they're living with family. Not everybody can live with family, or they have family. Maybe they're living with a relative. Maybe they're living with their grandma or grandpa if they still have them around in their life. Maybe they're just living with a friend.
And again, we have to say the quiet part out loud is probably the only reason why these kinds of programs are not extended over to people with disabilities is because government believes that seniors, they worked hard their whole lives. So seniors should be entitled to some sort of rental assistance. Yeah. But you know what? According to the provincial government, people with disabilities have never worked hard our whole lives. So
apparently,
we don't get access to things like rental assistance.
No, God forbid. Hey, I mean, gosh, no, we wouldn't want to do the right thing and actually help people with disabilities out. I mean, the rental assistance program. Yeah, I mean, people on rental assistance program. Yeah, I mean, they need that help. Right, because the high cost of rent, the high cost of living, they need that extra help to really give them that boost up, to allow them to pay 30% of their income, so they can put the money back into the economy that they are, the community that they live in. They can buy healthy food, all their necessities that they need. But people with disabilities, no, yeah, they're having a tough time. But you know what? There's always more to do. Like when I had the minister on, I said this would be grateful for people. I mean, great for people with disabilities to extend that over. I mean, it's so easy peasy done. And the response I got, everybody, was, that is a brilliant idea. Brilliant idea.
Now stop talking. Now stop talking.
And that was over 2 years ago. And guess what? Still nothing. Status quo.
Now the government has no money anyway. So.
But now the government said they have no money. But they encourage people to apply. They say they have no money to raise their rates, everybody. Yeah. Here's the kicker. They got no money to raise the rates for who knows how many years.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine quite a few years. So what are people with disabilities supposed to do in the meantime? Well, you won't raise the rates. You won't give them access to RGI housing in the market sector. They go on a long waiting list up to possibly, and I was told it could be up to 17 years or plus. Wow. So they're supposed to be homeless, I guess, for the meantime. Oh, that's not a good situation. But hey, there's always more to do, because the system is designed that way that we can't take care of our most vulnerable.
You can apply for a crisis supplement, $50.
You can apply for a crisis supplement,
but only if it's not a pre-existing condition, Brent. Yeah. Only if it's not a pre-existing condition, you can apply.
But the minister told people to go to the minister's office, no questions asked. You just say, I want $50 because, our government didn't raise our rate.
The money's there. We're not giving it out. We're not giving it out.
You need it.
They're not giving it out, Brent, but the money's there. They're not going to give it out, but it's there, though.
It can't be a pre-existing problem, but it is. They'll say, "Oh, but why did you come here?"
Anyway, you know what? We're almost at the hour mark, so let's quickly transition over to the other pink unicorn that I like to talk about so much.
The one right behind me
is about pensions, and I swear I'm not going to spend too much on it because I like to monopolize the discussion. I've done that a lot, so let's not spend a lot of time on this. Other than to say, when you're older, when you're a senior, guess what? Seniors get pensions, and pensions are a respected thing because pensions are worked for. Pensions you pay into them. They are by their own DNA, they are an earned income privilege, because the only way you earn them is through work. You pay into them, your employer pays into them, and you pay into them. You both pay into it. And so it's a respected, protected income. I'll say that again, Brent. It's a respected, protected income. Except
supposed to be,
if you're on PWD,
right?
Our provincial government says, well, you know what? That this protected, respected income that's a pension. You know what? Even though the DNA of a pension is supposed to be protected, even though it's supposed to be a respected thing, we're not going to protect it. We're not going to respect it. We're going to claw it back.
Yeah. So, we're going to.
And you know what's even worse is not only do they claw back your standard run of the mill pension, but they also claw back if you have your wife die, which happened in my case. So they disrespect death too. So not only do they disrespect that a pension, they say a pension is not a protected, respected thing. They also say that death should not be a respected thing. And I mean, that to me is just, I have to say, Brent, it's just sick. It's perverse and sick. It's perverse and sick that we have provincial policy that says
it's very, very sick.
You know what? We should. It's embarrassing, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, government should be ashamed upon themselves.
Let's victimize people that are widows and widowers.
Yeah, exactly.
And take money away. Let's do that. And let's not respect a pension. because even though a pension is a protected thing, even though it should be a respected thing because you do pay into it.
Yeah.
I paid into it, or my wife paid into it, and her employer paid into it, and I should be entitled to it, but the government says no. And it's just so stupid, Brent. And it's just so disrespectful.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say about that. Really, we can
Yeah,
clock up there, but.
Well, and I mean, I can kind of relate to that. Is it reminds me of a time growing up in a rural area and BC in the Fraser Valley, outside the Langley municipal area. I mean, Langley is such a huge area, and we growing up out there, of course, my mom would do a lot of shopping over at the co-op, and basically at the co-op, you basically would put
Hello.
That's my son. My son wanted to say hi.
Hello.
Hello, Jake.
Hello, Brent. I cannot hear you, but hello. I hope you're doing great.
I can hear you.
He can't hear you because I got the headphones on. But
you can tell him I can hear him, and she'd be doing a lot of shopping, over at her local co-op.
Hi, Jake.
You would put a lot of.
Tell Jake I say.
Tell Jake Sonia says hi.
Okay.
Yeah. So she would do a lot of shopping at her local co-op. For her hobby farm, she'd have a hobby farm, and when I mention hobby farm, I mean she had chicken, ducks. She had a pot-bellied pig just as a family pet. That thing would waddle along just like, oh, jeez. She would call it Charlie. His name was Charlie. Yeah, the pot-bellied pig, Charlie.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just I don't know. She loved her animals, and it's like she had 14 cats at one point in time. 14 cats.
Yeah.
And 2 dogs.
Because 13 is not enough.
Yeah. Exactly. And one time I was just like, wow. So you can imagine allergies were just having a heyday, right? Chickens and roosters, and you name it, she had them. She had a cockatiel, she had a parrot, she had a budgie. Those things would bite your hand trying to feed them. So I had some good welts there for a while. She'd go away, and guess who got to look after all the family pets? I'd come home from school. Guess what I had to do?
Whether you want to or not.
Yeah, and I had to do my homework too, right? Get everything done too. It was always.
And you can say the chickens ate your homework, Brent. You can say the chickens.
I tried
ate my homework.
It's funny you say that. I actually tried. I tried using that line to my teacher. She said, "Nice try, Brent. Nice try." I said, "Well, okay, the dog ate it." She goes, that's the old tale. The dog ate my homework. I said, "Okay, the cat." I said the cat peed on my arm. Oh. Anyway, so I guess where I'm going with this, my mom put a lot of time into, shopping at the grocery store, a lot of money over a year. You can imagine, all the groceries. I mean, she didn't go all the way downtown. I mean, she didn't drive, so she'd rely on some generosity from her neighbors. And I wouldn't say relied. I mean, in a nice way, where the neighbors were more than happy. Like they would say, yeah, like, just tell me if you want to go downtown. I'll take you down shopping. If there was something really important that she needed that, let's say the grocery store didn't have, because the co-op had pretty well everything that you needed in the community, but there was times where she needed to go down. So the neighbor said, well, I mean, if you need a ride down, my mom says, well, I don't want to rely on you. She goes, oh, no, I don't mean the word rely, but if, I'm always here. Like there was always a neighbor to take her down. So she put her money into the co-op. So every year, everybody, she would get they call it a dividend payout, a dividend payout. And it was their way of a customer appreciation of saying, here, it's a loyalty payout of saying, thank you very much, your patronage, and here's your dividend check. Well, my mom got, there was one year she got $1,500. $1,500. Now that's a lot. I mean, you got to shop there a lot to get that. Between pet food and food and case lot sales, and my mom would have a deep freezer, so she would stock things up, and she would make homemade soups and meals, and she'd throw them in the deep freezer. So when times were not so good in the winter time, or like fall, as we know in the BC is fall and winter, not so good weather. Well, my mom would make stuff like, so she'd buy a lot of ingredients at the store, and then she would actually make it and then freeze it. And so, yeah, she wouldn't be going to the store very much. And then she'd get some of our neighbors to go with a truck, pickup truck, and pick up her feed and stuff, and then have it dropped off. So again, she would pay for their fuel. Like at the co-op, she'd pay for their fuel and for them to do that. So the government said, well, the pension was, we're gonna claw that off you. We're gonna take that off you.
Yeah. Because
they classified it as unearned income. Well, she earned it. Yeah. As a senior, she worked hard. I mean, she worked hard all her life. And then she says, this is what I get, Brent, as working hard all my life, I get this taken off me. Well, she was told that by the same worker that, don't worry, it won't be taken off you. Yeah. So my mom's, okay. She says, don't worry, you have nothing to worry.
And again, the only way you qualify for things like that is if you work for it. Like they don't just give it to you. They don't just say, hey, out of the goodness of our heart, we'll just give you a pension. You have to work for them. You have to work for them.
But the miscommunication, though, is like the same worker said, and she was misinformed. She misinformed my mom. Said, oh, don't worry, it's not going to get taken off you. So my mom planned. My mom had saved up money by when she was working so much, and she saved up money. On top of that, she put it toward a vacation to go and see some cousins and a lot of different relatives over in England.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not cheap to go in there.
Yeah.
So she saved up all this money and actually put that money. She used that money to pay for her flight. So the same worker had told her, don't worry, it won't get taken off you. Guess what? It got clawed off her pension. So now she's in a situation where, how did she pay her rent? She couldn't. That amount was actually almost gobbled up her whole pension. Yeah. She had, I think it was 15. It was almost 1,600. That one year was on average she was 1,500. That one year she was $1,700 and something dollars she got.
Yeah,
and taken off her.
Well, like you said, Brent, like your mom was told the wrong thing, and that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
I tried to do the right thing. Right when my first wife passed away, I tried to phone the social development office right away, and write letters and let them know what was happening. And I was told that that they that the money would kind of stay in place. The only thing they told me was that the only money that was going to be taken off was the money that was allotted to my wife, and that makes sense. Of course, if my wife passes away, then her support portion, of course, you're gonna minus that off, right? So that made sense. But they said everything else will stay in place. That's what I was told. Not once, but twice by two different workers. Yeah. I was told that money's going to stay in place, and then surprise, I got this massive clawback.
Well, that's what I mean. That happened to my mom. Yeah. She was not told just by one person, twice.
Yeah, and I was left. I've said this before. I was left with less than $400 from the provincial government. They left me with $400 of support for the month for it was like for 2 years. It was for over 2 years. They did that. I only got a maximum of $400 every month for 2 years.
Well, that's what they said to her was they were going to just do it in increments. They could do it lump sum, or they do it in increments. So it left her short for quite a while.
Yeah.
So I had to then go to my employer at the time, and I was like, because she was not able to even pay her rent. I mean, the cost of living. I mean, you could get more value for your dollar back decades ago, but the cost of living was still there. I mean, and how do you pay your rent? How do you buy your pet food? Everything else that she had to do, clothing. I mean, there was things that I was trying to work as much as I could. There was things that I needed that my mom was able to get for me that I wasn't able to get for me. I wasn't on disability at the time, and so it was in a bad spot. So I had to go to an employer, everybody, my employer, and I actually I told them the situation, what's going on with my mom, because, my employer was very intuitive and picked up that I was really stressed. And she said, everything okay, Brent? And no. I said, did you want to talk about it? I go, no, it's just personal stuff going on at home. My mom's having a real bad time. And I actually broke down. I was like getting upset. And so they got another employee to fill in, like, temporary for me. I just had a meeting with my boss and my boss's wife. So we sat down. We had lunch. I mean, I was working in a restaurant at the time. We had lunch in the restaurant. It was on them, so why not, right? I mean, we sat down and, my boss was beyond amazing. My boss actually turned around and said, you know what, Brent, here's $700. I want you to go and give this to your mom. $700, everybody. My boss just forked it out of his wallet and said $700 and give this to your mom to help your mom out, cash. Okay. And just so that she could actually try to get by. Then they said they were going to then just do an advancement off my paycheck going forward so that I could help my mom out. It means I just got a little bit less on it, but it actually went to my mom. Like, they were amazing. Like, they turned around, and after I thought, okay, now I'm going to be short because now they get an advancement. Well, that was the owner, but his wife turned around and I guess they had a meeting and said, well, we don't want to keep clawing it off Brent, in advance, because to help his mom out. So they just gave a lump sum. My mom was beyond so grateful. She just, she was in tears. And that was amazing of an employer, just one employer who didn't even know who my mom was, but they were so happy with me that they actually wanted to help out the family. They wanted to help out the family. Yeah. And when I say family, I mean just my mom and the pets. That was her family, so I call it the family. So again, clawbacks, people with disabilities
so close
versus
to the
seniors.
11-11, Brent.
We are, and actually we are at 11-11.
Time to punch out.
That's the difference, everybody. The clawbacks. How policies hurt people with disabilities and seniors. My mom was a senior. I talk a lot about it because what I know now is how she brought me up, getting the mighty, stretching the mighty dollar as far as you can, and a bit appreciation of what you go through in life, because she said life has its puzzles. You can, throw you curves. You have to work with it the best way you can, she told me. Going through the Great Recession, going through the Great Depression. She went through it all. And right now, we're going through the same cycle again, because I said to her decades ago.
I'm going through depression right now, Brent, and it's David Eby's fault.
Yeah.
I'm depressed that the BC NDP are in power. I'm depressed,
me too.
Brent.
I've never been through a government in my life that has been so disrespectful to people with disabilities. We used to talk about it on
next
the show.
Level, isn't it? It's really
it is next level. I always thought that the BC Liberals were cruel to people with disabilities. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I'm not giving them any credit either, everybody.
No, I know. But it really is. But David Eby's turned it up to 11. He really has.
He's turned up the amplification of the buying, because the buying power has eroded so badly. Rents are high, everything's high, and here's a premier, everybody.
But it's not his fault.
That gives $0 for people with disabilities in the BC budget. Meanwhile, you got everything skyrocketing. Sonia doesn't like the word skyrocketing when I use it. I don't know why, but everyone uses it.
Dan is swearing in chat for us on our behalf.
Toronto Dan, this premier, Dan, I don't know what his issue is. He doesn't like people with disabilities.
Yeah,
and
it's like Eby and Ford and Doug Ford are having a contest to see who can be the worst premier in Canada.
Oh, well, right now David Eby's number 3.
Right now David Eby is number 1 in my book.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the polls show that
being
number 3, I think
being worst. Being
but
number 1 for being the worst.
If they would have asked more people in that survey, that number he'd be right off the chart.
Yeah.
You know, there's a guy in my building. We helped him up because our elevator broke down, and he lives on our third floor in our building. Actually, no, sorry, no, he lives on the fourth floor. Actually, fourth floor. I had to help him up 3 flights of stairs with his stroller because the elevator had broken down. It's fixed now, but Sonia was on one platform. I was right behind him, so if he were to fall back, I would catch him. But I put his stroller further up on the platform. So, you know, as you go up the stairs and there's a platform and then it goes upstairs again. Well, I put his stroller up there because I could see what was going to happen. If he fell, imagine pulling that stroller back and it would fly over his head, and then guess who would get the hit of it? Me. Yeah. But I was right behind holding him just for, for accessibility wise. And he had handles on each bars going up. So again, I talked to him about the BC budget, and he said on how seniors are treated and how people with disabilities are treated. He goes, he could not believe that how.
Let's be clear, people that are seniors are getting screwed over too.
Oh, beyond,
But having said that, the point of this show is that even though people that are seniors are getting screwed over by the BC NDP right now, the people with disabilities in the province are getting screwed over even more. So,
because people with disabilities, we used to have a pension.
We used to have a lot of the things that
back in the early mid 1990s until the government decided, let's make it income means tested instead of keeping it as a guaranteed pension like seniors. Seniors have they have an OAS, they have a GIS.
You know, when you say means tested now, I always think of, let's make it mean. Let's make it angry. When they say means tested, I always think of it now, let's make it angry.
I remember saying that angry. I remember saying that to a worker my mom had to fill out for a senior supplement, how she had to fill out paperwork for it. And when they said income means, and because she was the same worker that was going to be administering the disability going forward. And I said, means, what is means? It's just a terminology that the government uses. Mean, I go, are they that mean, Brent? My mom's sitting there, Brent, don't be, oh, no, Brent's making a good point. Means tested. I go, my mom goes, what does that mean anyway? I go, see, my mom even said, what does that mean? See, I said, they're mean, aren't they?
Just before we punch out, Brent, just remember the line, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Yes, the Incredible Hulk.
Anybody that knows that, they can punch it down in the comments.
Yeah, and exactly. And then I see Brent having a big green face forming all of a sudden. Yeah.
Don't make me
thank
angry.
you, everybody,
like me when I'm angry.
And yes, you won't like me when I'm angry. Yeah, don't make me angry. You won't like me when I'm angry. You won't like the pink unicorns when they get angry.
When they get green, that's a bad sign.
Yeah. Especially when we had St. Patrick's Day just recently.
That's true.
Green.
Yeah, I should have worn a green shirt today, I guess. Oh well.
That's okay. Don't worry. The sky is green, and the
sky is green and the grass is blue.
Grass is blue.
We have to.
Everybody.
People that don't know that one, they have to look that episode up too. Was that year one? We did that. Was it that year one, or was that year two?
Year two. I think that was year two.
I think. So look that one up. But that was a great episode. Yeah, mm-hmm. the sky is green and the grass is blue. All about how the government can pervert policy to make it make sense to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To them, it makes sense because they love pink unicorns. Yeah. Policies, they always like to keep status quo going forward. So I guess the moral of the story of today's podcast is I want people to reach out to their local MLAs, their local MPPs, their local members of parliament. Let them understand that people with disabilities need to have a pension that needs to be restored back as a pension, because disabilities don't go away, right? Seniors pensions, I mean, they have pensions. Do their situations change? No, they actually get more disabilities added on when they're seniors, right? They're on a fixed income. I mean, their situation doesn't go away. People with disabilities, their situation doesn't go away. When they become seniors, they're going to have a pension. They're going to look back and say, well, I'm a senior now. I get a pension. Why didn't I have a pension when I was on disability? Like, everybody, I mean, does that not make sense? I mean, and yes, they paid into taxes all their life too. You know, maybe they have. I mean, in one way or another, you pay your taxes. You are a taxpayer. When you file your income taxes, you
we all
are
contribute in some way, Brent.
You pay into your taxes. You got your cable. You got your cable. And one last part that we're going to squeeze in here really quickly before we sign off today: the cable, and home phone in BC.
Go back to the thumbnail. You have the woman on the phone.
Yeah.
I remember growing up with those corded phones, Brent.
Yeah, the long one.
I had an analog phone where you
and I'd be on the phone and we have a party line.
Dial.
Yeah, we'd have a party line, right? Yeah. And my mom used to get so mad. Brent, get off the phone. Get off the phone. And one of her neighbors, Brent, can you please get off the phone? I need to use the line. Oh, I thought this was my line. It is your phone number. Well, your mom's phone number, but not yours. It's the community. Oh, we're on one line. That's weird.
Now our government's gonna tax the landlines. They're not allowed to have a landline anymore.
You say that most people don't use landline phones anymore. They say they're going more technology based, and they're not using it, or even cable. No, people are streaming everything. They don't use cable. There's just an excuse that the government wants to use to try to get more tax dollars out of the people that are already tapped out at the lowest tax bracket that there is. So let's go after the most vulnerable.
We have to say that most provincial governments, Brent, don't go through five credit downgrades in a row. Most provincial governments, it's hard to do that, right? It's hard to go through five credit downgrades in a row.
Yeah,
but guess what? What? David Eby did it.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Eby.
It's not hard
successfully did
they've
five credit downgrades in a row. Congratulations. You are the winner of stupidity and everything else.
Well, yeah. I mean, but going after the most
incompetence. That was the word I'm looking for.
Going after the people in the lowest tax bracket. It's despicable. Like, when people were already trying to figure out how to pay for the ongoing costs, you get a $0 increase in the BC budget. Meanwhile, we're gonna. So now how do you pay? How do you pay for the ongoing costs of living? You get a rent increase from your corporate landlord because you're not allowed to pay RGI housing, rent geared to income. You get a increase, for your rent one day after the budget comes out. So it's like, wow, what a gift that was! Oh, wow, great. And then
we're first to say, "Where's the beef?
Where's the beef?"
Where's the beef?
Get to hear that cost of living is going to be going up further this year, the food costs going up, and then you hear, your cable is going to get taxed, your home phone's going to get taxed,
yarn's going to get taxed,
and your yarn's going to get taxed, and as small businesses are going to get hit
security guards are going to get taxed.
Yeah, and where does all those taxes get handed on to? The small businesses, the same businesses that say, hey, we can't afford this tax. Well, it all goes down the line, everybody. We all pay more in the stores for all this stuff. And the government says, well, we need this money because we screwed up.
But as long as David Eby gets paid, that's all that matters, Brent.
Yeah, but they say we kept hiring too many public service workers and we screwed up. We didn't want to listen to the public. They said, don't do it. They said, but we're government. We know what we're doing. Don't worry about it. It's fine. We'll go after the people that can least afford it the most. We'll tax them more. But how do they pay for it? Well, I guess they'll get to a point where they'll become homeless. Then they can apply for RGI housing, but they can sit on a waiting list. And that's going to go really well. But hey, they wonder why people are leaving the province in droves.
Yeah.
You know why? Because the government's actually making it unaffordable. Oh, don't worry, we've created lots of jobs in BC. The recent survey shows no, BC's lost a lot of jobs. Corporations shutting down. Businesses that don't want it, they can't stay in business because they're taxed to the hilt. What you don't do is add more tax on. You actually cut tax off to make it more affordable.
Well, we have to run a shorter show, Brent, because of taxes.
Because of taxes.
We have to punch out.
Thanks, everybody, because we're taxed out and we're tapped out here. Thanks for tuning in to PWD Allies podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's show. As always, please subscribe, like, and share the content. It really helps us grow the channel. Stay tuned to our next show.
We'll be back on Monday to talk about the Special Olympics.
Olympics. Looking forward to that show. And if you're into listening to what's going on about Special Olympics and how it impacts a person and their community and everything else above that topic, tune in on Monday. Until then, take care of yourselves. Look out for each one another on these uncertain times in our global conflicts of so many things going on. But to stay entertained, stay tuned to our PWD Allies podcast as Lived Experience Stories continues. If you would like to be a guest on our show,
watch all of our back catalog too.
Yeah,
watch every single one of our videos. Every single one, Brent.
Every single one. Binge watching, everybody. Binge watching. Binge.
You think Netflix is good? You should binge this channel.
Oh, binge this channel. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Grab your popcorn, pop, or whatever you want, hot chocolate, whatever it is, or just H2O. Have some water with some good ice cubes and just sit back, relax, and watch our shows. Yeah. Take care. Enjoy your weekend. See you next week, everybody.
Cheers.
Take care.